It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. Now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Showtime. What's happening, everybody? I hope everybody had a great weekend, and I hope all my dads, shout out to all my dads, I hope you had a happy Father's Day. Yes, it is the Geno Jones Show. I'm a proud dad of two beautiful daughters. I'm a girl dad times two deuces, Lauren and Alexandria, Boogie and Allie. And thank you for a wonderful Father's Day along with my queen, Damaris. Thank you. And I hope you had a Father's Day. A public service announcement. Public service announcement, just a note to everybody, but I don't mess with Nelly anymore, so I don't even do the everybody like Nelly used to do. Public service announcement. The energy, the same energy that we had all weekend. The same energy that you had on Sunday for Father's Day. Keep that same energy and hold on to it all year long. Anita Baker song. Anita Baker had a song called Same Old Love, 365 days. From all the dads to everybody else, that's all we ask. Appreciate us and give us that same old love you gave us on Father's Day, 365 days a year. Thank you very much. My new start time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. Chicago, 4:30 p.m. live in Los Angeles, Monday through Friday, unless otherwise noted. This is how we get down the Geno Jones Show. Be sure to tell everybody to subscribe to this channel right here. Support the channel financially. It's so important you supporting this show, this channel, my media company, because we need black-owned media now more than ever before. We have to tell our own story. We have to tell the truth, and nobody's going to tell our story better than us. So you can financially support the show, make a financial contribution, or you can become a sponsor or advertise. I'd be honored to have you as part of the Geno Jones Show family. So you can Zelle or Cash App. Zelle. Just use my email. So Geno Jones on Zelle. Just type in Geno Jones and then use my email, GenoJonesShow@gmail. No but that's how you see it. That's how you spell it. Geno Jones Show, Gmail. That's Zelle. You can Cash App, $ Dad G Jones. That's one word. $ capital D like David, capital A like Apple, capital D like Daddy. Capital G like Geno, capital J like Jones, lowercase o, that's it, what? Capital G, lowercase AD, capital G like Geno, capital J like Jones, lowercase o like Oprah, lowercase n like Nanette, lowercase e like elephant, lowercase s like Sam. That's how you do that thing there. $ Dad G Jones. Tell everybody to subscribe. We're right at the point of becoming a YouTube partner. That means that the show will get a monthly check. The show and my media company will get a monthly check from YouTube because of the popularity and my views and the amount of the clicks and the views and the amount of time spent watching. So thank you in advance. Once again, I can't stress it enough. So many great black-owned media platforms. Joy Reid now has her platform. I think she's on YouTube. I know Don Lemon is here. And shout out to Roland Martin. And there's so many more. Clay Kane, Karen Hunter. I could go on and on and on. But the Geno Jones Show is fire. Y'all already know that. Speaking of fire, my guest, fire. He is the chairman of the Charleston County Democratic Party. Pastor Thomas Dixon coming on camera real soon. But first of all, so I did my Father's Day shout outs. And also this weekend, Saturday, the No Kings protest. 5 million people plus all across America, in cities like Chicago and New York and Los Angeles, in rural towns and places where they even black folks. Montana and Idaho and Nebraska and Iowa and Kansas, all across America, in the South here in Charleston, South Carolina, where Pastor Dixon was a part of one of the big No Kings rap. All across America, Americans said, enough of the bullshit. No kings. No bullshit. Stop it. Which I love that. But so today, the angle I want to take today, the conversation that I want to take from here and go forward is the same energy that everybody had Saturday. It's great. What are we going to do with that energy? We got to maintain. not only do we have to keep that same energy, we got to turn it up. And we got to turn it up by turning out to vote. Because, listen, I hate to say I told you so, but have folks listen to me in November. Have folks listen to me 2.5, 3 years ago when I was warning you about Project 2025, and you all looked at me like I had two horns. Yes, I am a Taurus, but you can't see my horns. You just feel them if you mess with me. But no, I was race baiting and, you know, angry N-word and all of that. Well, psych. And MAGA cult, you see that these white, straight, male billionaires, and not all of them are straight, because you got some that's, you know, that are actually part of the LGBTQ community. I do believe, according to some news sources, Peter Thiel is a part of the LGBTQ community, but you would never know it by the policies he supports and just by his action. So all skin folk ain't kinfolk, based on your ethnicity, the amount of melanin you have, the lack of melanin, your sexual preference, the gods you allegedly pray to. None of that matters to these billionaires. They don't give a shit about poor and working class white people. They despise you even more. And I've been telling you this for 4.5 years. So, but here we go. So what are we going to do? How are we going to maintain this same momentum? Not just because we can't maintain it. Midterms are about a year and a half off. November of 2026. All right, it's June of 2025. We got to turn this thing up. And let's talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. Brother native of the south side of Chicago, he's been putting in work in this community. I've been here 20 years, and he's been putting in work in this community for at least 20 years, longer, because he was doing it before I got here. So 20 plus years putting in work in the community as a community activist. He ran for mayor of the city of North Charleston a couple years back. He is the chairman of the Charleston County, South Carolina Democratic Party. Ladies and gentlemen, handsome young man rocking his signature trademark silk red scarf, Mr. Pastor Thomas Dixon. My brother, welcome. Unmute your mic for me.
Yeah.
There you go.
What up? What up, though?
How we doing, man?
I watched too much BMF. What up, though?
It's okay. I watched The Chi. I was watching it. I don't know if you've seen The Chi, but
yeah.
I didn't watch it at the beginning because I got just full disclosure, man. Just the whole, series glorifying drug culture, and I know it's not us. I mean, America has grown up glorifying movies like The Godfather and Goodfellas and Scarface. I get it, but something just said, I was bored, and I said, okay, you know what? I'm gonna check this show out because I heard a lot of good stuff about it, and it's really well done. Shout out to Lena Waithe, the sister that the producer, the writer, the showrunner. It's her show. She is an alumni of my college, so we are alumnus, Columbia College, Chicago. So I'm really proud of her, and my old girl, Lynn Whitfield. When I see her, I think of a thin line between love and hate, because she was straight cray-cray.
Just watched it yesterday.
Yeah, Big Money was cray-cray.
Yeah.
Bobby Brown did the hit and run, and she was like, "Oh no, you will not." So it's almost a similar role.
Yeah.
Here she is, a sister, powerful, lot of money, lot of power, but she got a little different energy. So I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but yeah, she is. Yeah. She's the boss. Because a lot of it is about not even gang culture, but just organized crime. How about that? Criminal activity. Yeah. Is that a good way to put it, Pastor Dixon?
That's a real good way to put it. And a lot of times, we will watch certain genres, certain types of entertainment that just taps into a portion of our psyche that we might not even be in touch with anymore. It's just a part of who we are. And so when I watch BMF, I mean, it's not like I'm like trying to glorify what Big Meech and them did and Terry and them did, but I come from that.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to isolate my life, although I don't condone that lifestyle. I'm not trying to make that a part that's separate or different from me. Like I'm somebody different. That's still me, and it kind of like it taps into that the shy, thin line between love and hate. Boys in the hood. I can go back to back on different things, and just it taps into a part of me that's just me. So that's why I roll with it. I stop and enjoy it. I mean, I like other movies too. I like other movies too.
And you and I both grew up on the south side of Chicago, and but one thing the media does is that, like, if watching BMF or watching The Chi, you would think that like that's like everybody in the city that's involved in that, and it's not. Like 95 to 98% of the folks in the city are not even about that life, but you would know about looking at TV. So
exactly.
Which is the whole media narrative, which is why it's so important that we own and control our own media, because nobody's going to tell our story better than nobody can tell your story better than you, and nobody's going to tell it in most cases, because here we tell it honest. I let people tell their own story. I tell my own story, and I encourage and allow everybody that comes on the show to tell your story, because nobody's going to tell your story better than you. And when people start telling your story, you got to ask yourself, so why are you talking? Why are you telling my story? What is your agenda? I don't need you to speak for me. I got this. So I digress. So let's jump right into it. I want to congratulate America. Showed up and showed out Saturday, as opposed to the Dictator Parade, which was a dud, and people were out of step. So Pastor Dixon, did you? Now I'm trying to remember, because I know we've known each other for 20 years. Didn't you spend some time in the military?
Right. I'm former Navy.
Okay.
I did 6 years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So good. Let me ask you this. I'm being messy intentionally. Off the dome.
I saw it too. So go ahead.
So I didn't watch any of it. Full disclosure. But I keep hearing about the marching, and I've heard from those. I even heard from a drill sergeant, and I didn't have time to call my cousin, who was a master sergeant. He was a drill sergeant, then he was a master sergeant in the Marines for 20 years in the Marines. But I've heard, like I probably heard about at least three people channel surfing on the radio that were in the military that talked about how horrible the marching was.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. I just
somebody that was in the military. Can you speak to that? Was it really that bad?
No, I'm going to take it one step further than just in the military. I remember in the Bud Billiken Parade, right? We used to have drill teams. You know what I'm talking about.
The Bud Billiken Parade is an iconic. It's a parade for the black community that's been going almost 100 years now. And Bud Billiken was his character. Chicago Defender was one of the first black newspapers in America, and the whole Bud Billiken Day Parade came out of that culture. So
that's
for
right.
those who are watching who are not from Chicago, like, but who's Bud Billiken? So they
know. I just dropped it out there like everybody knows who Bud Billiken is. But yeah, we had drill teams. I know you remember.
Yes.
And
I went to Dunbar. Come on, they had they had ROTC, and them brothers and sisters
it was tight.
Dude, it was tight.
You better not step out or go get a misstep. Nothing like that. I just happened.
That
was it.
They were serious, dude.
I just happened to be channel surfing and passed the news channel, and I looked and I saw that and them looked like either Marine Corps or Army Corps walking in, passing in review, and they were out of step.
Yeah, a lot of people said it was the Army. Now, I don't know about the Marines, but they was like,
Army?
Yeah, the Army. Yeah. They was like, those are whoever it was from the Army. Some folks are saying it was like the D team, so apparently I heard a black woman who was a retired military. She said she was a drill sergeant, and she talked about how basically for people who wanted to get out, there was a legal way for them to do it in the military if they went to, I guess, whatever the term for the doctor is in the military, and stated that they were ill or something happened and they couldn't march. That I guess by military law and code that they would have to be given and excused, and they would have to be excused if
Mm-hmm.
they went through the proper channels. And
Mm-hmm.
so she was like, maybe a lot of folks who didn't want to be bothered with that bullshit found a way, the loophole to get out of there. And all they had left was the goofies who didn't even know how to march.
That was sad. That was sad. That was almost
Does
as
that
sad as
sound
the amount of.
plausible to you?
It does. It does sound plausible. But no matter which way it goes, in any kind of operation, there's somebody responsible for the integrity and the level that's expected to be carried out. And unfortunately, they missed the mark totally, which it fell right in line with the whole military parade thing that they were doing, because the whole thing missed the mark.
Damn, so Pastor Dixon, I didn't see, man, they must have really been bad, dude. What was they like? Left, right, well, because
No, it wasn't that synchronized marching. I've seen better synchronicity in a pool at the Olympics, or at least in warm up, than what our trained military. Can you imagine though? This is our trained military. They're supposed to be the ones who are efficient in battle, and that they work according to a certain scheme in order to protect and everything. But they can't even march straight together. We in trouble. Well, no, I ain't in trouble, because I'll be 73 soon. I ain't going. Somebody in trouble. And as far as I'm concerned, I serve so my kids don't have to serve.
Yeah.
Anybody can take it any kind of way that they want to, but that's just how I feel about it,
So,
but yeah, that whole so-called military parade that was supposedly honoring the 250th year since the start of the US Army.
Yeah.
Of the Army, that was a disgrace and an embarrassment to the United States Army, and the armed forces.
And I talked to many, especially retired veterans, including my cousin, and he just talked about, and he and I talked for a good 30, 45 minutes, and he was emphatic about how he's like, dude, he was like, cuz these young men and women in the military, they ain't trying to be bothered with no march. They just want to go ahead and get whatever work done, get that out the way, and just have whatever little time they had of themselves. They're not trying to be bothered with no parade. He said the last thing they wanted to be bothered with was a damn parade.
Unfortunately, once you fall up under the command or leadership or direction of a certain entity that has control of your life, then you operate according to the way that they say, or they find a way in order to make sure that your life is extremely miserable, which is a great segue into where we're going, I'm sure. But back to the parade, the parade part of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to segue because I didn't even intend to spend that much time on the parade, but I had to ask you because I was in the car on my way home this evening, and I'm listening, and I'm like, damn, and I thought that you said you served in the military. So I'm just trying to get some more confirmation that it was it that bad? Apparently it was that bad and worse.
I was Navy, and we did better than that.
Wow.
We did better than that. But the biggest problem though that with all of that is that they had this parade supposedly honoring an army that was established 250 years ago without remembering why it was honored. It was honored why it was established. It was established 250 years ago in order to protect the 13 colonies, in order to make sure that they're split, they're run from the King of England. They said, no kings, we don't want no king, and we will establish an army in order to prevent that. So they're having this thing to honor it, and that's where the entire No Kings movement last week, that's where it came from. Because 250 years ago, the people, the colonies, the 13 colonies said, no kings. But now here we got this guy sitting in the White House who thinks he is some kind of king.
And,
no king.
And thank you, Pastor Dixon, for that history lesson. I'm so glad you interjected and you gave us that history lesson, and I didn't know you were going to do, but thank you so much for that, because that's one of the things the show's all about. And ironically, this was a year before America, the United States of America, as we now know it, before the Constitution, before all that was done and completed. A year before that, the U.S. Army was formed for the reason that you just stated. So I thank you for that. So I want to congratulate all those who participated in the No Kings rallies and protests, peaceful by the way,
Peaceful.
all across America. But now, so here's the challenge. Full disclosure, Pastor Dixon and I, we talked before the show, like a little pre-show meeting, you could call it. Because my thing is, there were a couple things, but my main point is, now what are we gonna do with that momentum? Okay, that's great. I am happy about the turnout. For the most part, black folks collectively attended in smaller numbers because the general sentiment for black folks is like, listen, to the majority of white Americans who voted for this, because the majority of white Americans that voted for Orange Hitler, over 50 plus, like 55% of Hispanic men voted for this bullshit. So basically, white America, your kinfolk, your cousin, your uncle, your daddy, your nephew, y'all voted for this shit, so y'all got to fix it. Pastor Dixon has I'd say another perspective or an added perspective, but I just love the way everything went down. The people who needed to be in the front, who the police will react, they will react to differently. We do know that when it comes to black folks and law enforcement on any level, we are always handled differently than white Americans are. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. There's data and video to back that up. But the most important thing, my main point, Pastor Dixon, and I know you've got a blueprint, game plan, and strategies. How do we not just keep the same energy that 5 million plus people, because there were millions more who didn't go. How do we not just maintain that energy? How do we turn it up? And how do we turn that energy into turnout? How do we turn that energy into organization, mobilization, making sure that we are registering people to vote, that we are educating people, that we are doing all that we can to put at least kind of neutralize this bullshit in the midterm elections, because 90 million people didn't even vote November 5th. You had more Americans that didn't vote than voted for either one candidate.
Exactly.
90 million.
Exactly.
Both. Orange Hitler got about somewhere close around 77. Vice President Kamala Harris got around 75. 8 million people that voted for Joe Biden didn't vote, but 90 million people who were eligible to vote said, F it. They didn't even do it for a whole lot of reasons, but we're not gonna relitigate that, and there's no need, Pastor Dixon, to rewrite history. We gotta focus on going forward and what's ahead of us. So I give you the floor. Let's talk about how do we not just maintain this energy from Saturday. How do we even turn it up more and make sure that we get the turnout, the organization, and the mobilization in all those communities, all those large cities and small towns all across America? What's the blueprint?
Right. And all across America is a little bit difficult, but I'm going to stay more local, like South Carolina type.
Okay. Well, we can use South Carolina as the blueprint for America.
The reality is that if we win South Carolina, anybody can win. South Carolina's a stronghold.
That's why I said we got the we cracked this code. That is the blueprint for America.
Exactly. So what we saw on Saturday and what we saw on Sunday and what we've seen consistently over the last 4 months since this movement started, it has more or less broken the usual complacent attitude that those who support Donald Trump have gotten into. They got the mindset that they're good, and they've been doing this for so long, and right here in South Carolina, they've really controlled this state for a very long time. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But now they're looking at the residents of this state literally getting out in the streets, where for a long time it's been, this is a red state. Oh, we're nowhere near purple. Republicans are always going to win here. And that's been the message. That's been the message that Democrats have believed. That's the message that Black people definitely hold on to. And even our Hispanic brothers and sisters, they flipped the script, but they did that nationally.
And can I jump in, Pastor Dixon?
Mhm.
I want to amplify the point that you just made because it's so important about messaging and how we can be brainwashed and basically
Mhm.
punked out of our own power and
Mhm.
disillusioned and disenfranchised. South Carolina, I've been here 20 years now. Red state. Jamie Harrison scared the shit out of Lindsey Graham. But the
Mhm.
numbers that I want to cite is that a third of this state, and you can correct me because you know the numbers better than I do. I think
Mhm.
right around 30%
Mhm.
of the population of South Carolina is black,
Mhm.
and it's probably at least another what over 10%. Was it Hispanic? Is it closer to 15 or 20? What's
I think it's a little bit better than 10%.
okay?
I'm unsure on the exact numbers.
So just think about that.
Mhm.
Let's
But
go
listen,
to the
I got it.
Fred Hampton Jr. School of Politics. Do the math. Thirty
Mhm.
percent of this population in South Carolina is black. Another 10 plus. So that means over damn near half of the population is people of color.
So I got an easier way to actually look at it. I kind of look at it just like it was, and I have to go back to November 6th of last year in order to do that. The actual election numbers in South Carolina came out, well, nationally came out to be that Donald Trump carried 32% of the vote. Kamala Harris carried 31% of the vote, 1 percentage point less. But 36% of the registered voters in the United States did not vote. Now
Oh.
let me break that down
Oh,
though.
please repeat.
So
Man, I'm glad you broke that. You did your homework, brother. Thank you. You helped me out. I
yeah,
hadn't saw those numbers yet. So
yeah.
please, I think that's so important. Repeat that again.
And wait till I fill in the blanks though. But Donald Trump carried the election. He won the election with 32% of the vote. Kamala Harris
And
got
that's what
31
explains. So I just want to make sure everybody watching understands. Of
Mhm.
all the eligible voters,
of all the eligible voters.
everybody that was eligible to vote
Mm-hmm.
on Chile,
32% of
32%.
the eligible voters in the United States voted for Donald Trump. Of the eligible voters in the United States that voted for Kamala Harris, 31%, 1% less voted for Kamala Harris than voted for Donald Trump. But 36% of the eligible voters in the United States did not go vote at all. Now, I said I needed to fill in the blanks though. When we stop and we look at the voters who voted for Donald Trump, these are probably Republicans, MAGA Republicans, conservatives, whatever you want to call them. These were Republicans to vote. And there's one thing about Republicans, they go vote. They don't make excuses or sit at home or whatever. They go vote and they go vote for their people.
Yeah, they do.
So that 32% that gave him that win, that 1% win over Kamala Harris, those were Republican voters. That 31%, of course, probably majority Democrats or whatever. But if all the Republicans went and voted for Donald Trump and all he got was 32%,
Mm, mm.
and 36% of the registered voters did not vote, who do you think them 36% was?
Mm.
Them 36% was registered Democratic voters
Or
who
independent.
decided
Or independent. You think? Yep.
independents vote, they vote Democratic normally too, because they understand that the value systems are not the same. The value systems that we see that are putting people in the streets right now, those are Republican value systems that they're fighting against. So 36% of the registered voters in the United States did not even go to vote. Now, had they done so, 36 plus 31, what is that? 67% of the
67%.
vote would have gone to Kamala Harris.
It would have been
If
broke
even,
a record. It'd have been a land. Never, nobody
if,
would ever have won by that kind of margin.
if even a portion of them would have gone, another 1%, 2% more
Two
would have
percent
gone.
more.
2%.
2% more. She would have won.
Right now, wouldn't be nobody in the streets holding up no signs, waving no flags.
4-year-old
None of that.
girls wouldn't be snatched up from the arms of their mothers. They wouldn't
That's
be
right.
chasing people through our agricultural fields in California or showing up to Home Depot, snatching folks or running up into people's schools, snatching folks like that.
I saw a video today. I saw a short video clip today of the police that literally in the streets, they knocked the woman down, a homeless woman, knocked her down. She hit her head on the curb. And instead of them offering her help, any kind of care, they just dragged her over to the side, dropped her, and got back in their cars and drove off.
Damn.
What kind of, but that comes from this king.
Yes.
This wannabe king.
Wannabe, yep.
Wannabe fake reality show king that we got in office. But that's what he puts out. But the problem that we see now, okay, we can move from November 6th and how that lack of participation came in to right now. When we look at those in the streets, last weekend at Hampton Park on Saturday, there was about at least 2,000, 3,000 people there. In Somerville, there was another 2,000, 3,000 people there.
Wow.
And when I look at the numbers that was there and the percentage of those that was there, over 90% of the people there was white, straight up. And we need to understand as a people that this ain't no white fight. Whatever flows out of Washington, D.C., let's just say even with the ICE situation, how many of us kind of look a little Hispanic?
And I've said this on this show, this is a test case. What they're doing with immigrants, undocumented immigrants, the whole thing about wanting to get rid of birthright citizenship and the 14th Amendment.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Do not think that if they can get away with everything they want to with undocumented immigrants and those from Latin American countries, from Venezuela or from Mexico, if you don't think they would come for your black ass or my black ass, then you are sadly mistaken, because that's part of the plan Stephen Miller wants to get rid of, like anybody that's not, even white folks is not loyal to this MAGA cult. So that's so important. But let me put this on the table, Pastor Dixon, because this is the conversation that we had in our pre-show meeting. Mm-hmm. And I know you do, but I'm giving this point of view so you can go ahead and give this other perspective. Mm-hmm. Millions of black folks are like, okay, listen, we over-indexed. We did everything. Invested money, time, emotion, multi-generational, from my 23-year-old daughter to my mom who's 80 and everybody in between. The women, black women, 92% showed up, turned out, voted for Kamala Harris. 80%, 80%. Black men voted for Kamala Harris. So black folks are saying, we tried to warn you. We stood in the breach. We stood up, showed out. But no, because of, and I'm just keeping it 1,000, the jet fuel that propelled Orange Hitler back in that position, the jet fuel was racism, sexism, and misogyny. Mm-hmm. So we got to address that. Now, so I don't know if it's guilt or whatever, or maybe because enough, I'm sure there are a lot of different reasons why, because I've seen some folks say, well, I was MAGA and I voted for Trump, but I didn't vote for this or that. People try to tell you, but a lot of it was because you couldn't vote for that woman or that black woman, all that. So I'm just putting it all on the table. So, and I understand, but I want you to share, because I know I'm not speaking for you. You will speak for yourself. But I know you understand that sentiment. As a black man, you understand that sentiment, how millions of, and we know that law enforcement, they always interact. Now, that woman that was homeless, was she black or white?
She was white.
So just imagine if that would have been a black homeless woman, how they would have treated her. You already know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about navigating that reality, especially for black Americans.
The first thing I got to do is break down the reality of the numbers that you gave when you started out. You talked about 90% of black women voted for, Kamala Harris. 80% of black men voted. But that's really like a little on the real. That's kind of like smoke and mirrors, because if you say that 80% of black women voted,
black men, and 92% of black women, yeah.
Right. You're not actually talking about 80% or 90% of black registered voters.
Okay.
So the numbers sound good. Wow, 90% of us voted for Kamala, the women, and 80% for the men voted for Kamala. But is that 80 or 90% of the registered voters?
Yeah, the
Or is that
turnout was
80 or
not the same as
90%
it
of
was
the,
even
is
for
the,
Biden,
is
let alone Barack Obama. Yeah.
but it's not the registered voters. It's 80% or 90% of the black people that voted, that voted.
That's where we
So
got to go, you're saying.
it could have
That's
been
where we got
two.
to go.
We could have had, that's just hypothetically, we could have had 200 registered voters, but only 100 voted. And 80% of those 100 voted, but the other 100 didn't vote. You
So
see,
that's where we need that. You said that's where we got to go.
yeah, because we can't keep giving people an out. We can't give them an out. We can't give them an out even about coming out into the streets, because our people got to understand what affects others affects us. Yes, we can talk about, well, we put in work and what we haven't gotten a return on our investment. And my personal thing is that we had the gas pressed down and we let up off the gas. We went out there, where them fans at? You know, we do our thing out here in the streets. You know, we get thousands of people out there, but when it comes time for us to stand up and take care of our own rights, we don't come out. We don't come. We won't even go vote. Yeah. Because again, those percentages are the people who went to vote.
Right. Now we have, in all fairness, Pastor Dixon, listen, we have, you wouldn't have got Barack Obama in office. Joe Biden would have never even got out of South Carolina if black folks in South Carolina didn't really rise up. So, but
I agree. I agree.
It's just that
but we didn't realize.
Yeah, it's just that, and there were a lot of factors, you know, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I mean, for young folks, what happened in Gaza really turned a lot of young black folks off. There was an element. Remember, 80% of black men voted for Kamala, 20% didn't. So that there was that small element of sexism and misogyny, which I've called out on this show, which I know you've called out publicly on many occasions. But now here we are. So, and I'm glad you put it, as my grandfather and the late great Joe Madison used to say, put it where the ghost can get it. You put it right there, made it easy for everybody to digest and understand.
So let me make it even clearer as far as how we move forward. When we look at the fact that we are, I don't want to say making excuses, but we're not getting involved and engaged in where we are right now, at a time when really the threat against us, and even more so the threat against our children and their children, it's greater than it's ever been. But instead of us being focused on that and getting involved and trying to make it straight, we're finding everything else to do other than getting involved and saying, look at the white people over there. And then I get the same thing from the white people over there. They say, where are the black people at? So I'm caught in the middle of this whole thing.
I know.
But if we in South
tell
Carolina,
the white folks, listen, y'all people messed this up. So as they say, come get your boy. You need to get your people and have them help clean this mess up. And when we see y'all serious, then we gonna come on with it. But you saying we all gotta come with it, right?
Yeah, I got another answer for them. You know, usually I'll say something like, well, you know, a couple of months ago, you know, we had a cop that killed 3 black women 3 years ago, and she got 3 years. And where was y'all at? so they be like,
crickets.
Yeah, but that's all right. That's all right. It's a learning process. And that's what I'm hoping right now to do, is to educate. Because if we look at what's happening across the nation through our current administration in the White House, and we just equate it to the last 22 years in South Carolina, what people haven't been able to understand or realize, and nobody even in the Democratic Party put it out, was the high crime and gun rate we have in our community, the lack of jobs that pay decent here, the inability to form union, can't get no hospitalization, can't get I'm saying the Arab store. Somebody gonna say you ain't politically correct, but that's what I came up with. The Arab store that's been sucking us dry for years is in our community thriving, because we live in a state that for the last 22 years have been controlled by the Republicans. They've controlled the South Carolina House, the South Carolina Senate, and the governor's office for 22 years. And in their messaging, you said messaging earlier, their messaging has been to the community, the Democrats done messed this up.
That's true.
And we've been sitting back here, yeah, them darn Democrats, they didn't mess up. All we doing, we're parroting what they say, because they think that we're a little slow, and we're proving that we might be a little slow, because we have failed to realize that the Republicans have had 22 years to get it right for us.
And it's not slow. Let me say this, Pastor Dixon, and I know you're not saying this, and it's not slow.
Mhm.
It's apathy, and for understanding human behavior, you get it. But it is the job of people like you that's been doing work in the community, grassroots and community activists, uh, uh, political, ran for political office, and now in this powerful position politically. It's up to people like us and people like
Mhm.
me who have a platform that have a degree of celebrity and influence and all that. It's up to us to ignite, to educate, to
Mhm.
enlighten, empower, inform, and inspire, and get people to step into their power. Because
Right.
the reason that these people have been brainwashing us with this bullshit here in South Carolina, it's the
Mhm.
Democrats, because they don't want you to focus on what's really, and which is another reason why it's so important. We have black-owned media, because
Mhm.
once again, the media has done a masterful job of parroting these same talking points from the Republicans, and you know that. So we
That's
can't.
right.
We got to put it all. If we gonna tell it, as my grandmother would say, if you're gonna tell it all, and that's what we
Mhm.
do here, and that's what you. So we telling the whole story. So like I
Exactly.
said, now
Exactly.
going forward, so
Mhm.
we know what the con and people have. They've tried to tell us that we didn't have power, because
Mhm.
they are they are afraid of our
We're a threat.
power when
We're
we
a
come
threat.
together,
Mhm. We're a
especially
threat.
just as black people, let alone black and brown people of color, and even decent, poor and working class, and some wealthy white people who don't go for this
We.
bullshit. They
You just
understand that we are the majority, and if we come together, it's a wrap.
you just walked us back 300 years. Because they realized that a long time ago, and they
Yes,
set stuff up in place in order to
longer than
separate
that.
us and get us at each other.
400 plus. I mean, on record, the first set of Africans, even though there's some debate about it, we even had some those of African heritage here, but the first 20 Africans from West Africa hit the shores of Virginia, Jamestown, Virginia, in August of 1619.
Hmm.
So we talking
That's
about
right.
centuries of
Yeah.
of that
Hmm.
con and bait and switch.
A couple of things. One of the things is I don't call myself an activist anymore, because the reality is, and that's why I will say things like slow and use apathy and stuff like that, because activist implies that I've activated something. I remember back in the day, folk got that Jerry curl, right? In order to really get that curl pop in it, they had to use
Should have put that
activator, right?
activator
It made
right.
it do something. It made it do something, right? Well, I've been called an activist for many years, and the reality is, when I look at around in our community, I haven't activated anyone or
Well, don't say
anything.
anyone.
Maybe I've
Maybe not enough.
I've planted what I have to hold on to the fact is I planted the seed, and just like with any other seed, it doesn't just pop up. And maybe even long after I'm gone, something I said and did will eventually take root and sprout. I have to take that. But when I look around right now, as far as activism, I ain't activated nothing. But I keep working. I keep working. Now, when it comes to this system that we're in right now, the system where our people need to be deprogrammed from where they are and then reprogrammed to understand that the enemy is not the Democrat. Democrats believe in the value system that will help everybody. They believe in fair wages for people and the right to collective bargain. They believe in universal health care. They've been fighting, but the Democrats can't win when you outvoted 3-1. There's no way that the Democrats can win when you're outvoted 3-1 in the House, in the Senate, and in the governor's office for 22 years. I can understand if for 5 years, oh yeah, them Democrats, that was just 5 years ago, them Democrats. Okay, I can roll 10 years of them. Okay, I can roll that. 22 years the Republicans have controlled South Carolina, and black people have been the least beneficiary from their rule. Now let's expand on South Carolina and move to the White House, because the same spirit of oppression that has kept us oppressed in South Carolina
Mm.
for the last 22 years is in the White House, and it then blew up. It's bigger than it ever been. That spirit of oppression, that's a demon. And the old saying said that when the nation catches a cold, black people catch pneumonia. And COVID proved it.
Yes. Yes, it did.
So if we think that we've got it bad here in South Carolina right now, and we're not doing anything to stop. We're not getting in the streets. We're not raising no cane. What we're doing is we getting out there, and I love to dance, and I'm down with 803 Fresh, and I want to where them fans
So you
at?
got your fan quack.
I want to be there too, but I cannot forget the fact that the bad situation we're in South Carolina has moved into the White House, and what's the oppression here is being not only condoned, but it's supported and actually it paid into, promoted from the White House. So it will get even worse here. We ain't seen the worst yet.
No.
Well, you know, a lot of people will say, well, you talk about SNAP benefits. Well, I'm talking about SNAP benefits from the position of our people receiving them, not the fact that white folks receive them and everybody else.
And more. Because the largest group of people in America that's on SNAP nutrition benefits, or what we used to call food stamps or EBT, are white Americans, make up almost 40%, and black Americans make up somewhere in the low 20s, low mid 20s.
Yep, but I didn't want to sneak past there by making a statement without giving that caveat on there that I understand about everybody else, but I'm talking about my folk, okay? My folk. When that thing don't hit, what are you gonna do? And the White House is trying to take that out. Yes. Just like it's not millions of people had work one day and the next day they didn't. And they got a promise that they're gonna get paid for so many months. But that's just a promise. And how many of y'all been promised something they never got it?
Especially by this dude, orange dude.
Somebody with a documented history of 20,000 lies over a 4-year period.
And not 6 bankruptcies and not paying his creditors. Come on now.
Yeah, straight up.
That's documented.
and the other documentation is that he's definitely, I'm just being anti-black. He don't do for white folks.
That ain't no secret. No, I mean, from back in the 70s when him and his father, they were sued and they had to settle out of court. The Department of Justice sued them for housing discrimination, and where when blacks came to like look at an apartment, when they left, the Trump family told you can Google or Chat GPT this in court records that it said that the employees, when a black person came to look at an apartment, on the application they would have to write C for color.
That's right. And that was their denial right there. That went in file C. Bam, right in the trash, you know. Yes. Right in the trash. But then let's not forget the Central Park 5, that he actually said they needed to be executed, and he still stands by that.
Right. Never apologized for
even though they were exonerated.
Exonerated 5. That's right.
Yeah, one of them ran for the alderman seat. I think it was in New York, and won.
Yes, he did. Said, yes.
Donald, look at me now. Look at me now. Yeah. I didn't do it then, but I did this now. That's right, because that's what we do. But this guy, we have to realize moving forward, okay? Because now we went from the past, we went to the present, and this is the education process. We've had a little education piece in, but now moving forward, what do? We cannot sit by and watch as white people that are angry about what's going on get in the streets without us being in the streets right next to them. This is a time like never before where we have to join forces in order to defeat this enemy. Because I'm gonna call it an enemy, which is a very strong word that I don't like to use. But this thing is a demon. This thing is, if the church would treat what's going on in our nation the way that they treat some of their sermon messages talking about the devil and demons and I rebuke you and everything. Well, we need
homosexuality and all that, right? Yeah. If they was, that's a good point. If they was as concerned about the evil coming out of 1600 as they are about who people sleep with.
That's right. But instead we're worried about everything else. Gun violence in our community has just become a byword. It's what happens. No, it's not. It's not what's supposed to happen. We can't normalize that. Poverty is normalized. Our school system, we stopped going to school to fight for our kids in the public school system because Republicans, I'm gonna go back to South Carolina, refuse to invest in our public school system. North Charleston is the worst school system in the state of South Carolina, and say South Carolina is the worst state for public education in the whole nation.
Wow.
And even though North Charleston does have one of the best schools in the nation. So that says we can do it. They can do it.
Yes.
But they took they took all of the funding for North Charleston schools and they sent it everywhere else. Charleston County School District is a mess, has been a mess for a long time. It's way back to when they passed over the sister to bring Jarita Postlethwaite in. They brought in excuse the expression, white woman from backwoods South Carolina somewhere.
I remember that.
To come to Charleston as the superintendent of schools when they had somebody that was already in line, a sister who was more than qualified to step up. They passed over her. Yeah, that sister went on to run the school system in Lexington, Kentucky, in Birmingham, Alabama. She became the superintendent of schools in Atlanta, successful in public education at every step of the way. And now she's in Washington working for some kind of bureau there. Wow. She could have been our superintendent and our kids could have been thriving because she would have fought for our public education and made sure that the funding that needed to be distributed to our kids would have been there. But where were we at when that happened? Pastor Dixon been there, a couple of more been there, but the rest of the community, they've been absent. We have got to, moving forward, we have got to change our mindset. We have got to adopt the revolutionary mindset. We talk about Fred Hampton, but we don't want to be Fred Hampton. We talk about Malcolm, but we don't want to be Malcolm. We want to live in the dream, even though Martin used the dream as a reason to organize people. We don't want the organization part of it. We just want the I have a dream part, and that's it.
And you mentioned Malcolm X and Fred Hampton Jr. They organized, and especially toward the end for Malcolm and even Dr. King, they organized across ethnic lines, racial lines, gender lines, sexual orientation lines. They understood that, listen, we're all in this together. And if there's one group that's oppressed, we're all oppressed. Because if they'll come for one oppressed group, when they get through with them, they'll eventually come for you.
That's right. That's right. It was really amazing. I love the way at the awards show the other day, right? That what's her name?
Doechii. Shout out to Doechii.
Shout out to Doechii. She spoke up, and I was happy. Oh, I was so happy to hear her speak her piece. She took that time.
And she had more courage, Pastor Dixon, not to cut you off, but since you mentioned her, she had more courage than a lot of them grown-ass men who were multi-millionaires. I couldn't name check them, but I'm gonna just be nice. But everybody knows.
Okay, so
she was the only one. No other man. It was men had been there, being recognized for 30 years in the business and doing this and that and all kind of stuff, all kind of accolades. But she was the one, 26 years old, that's new in her career, that had more to lose probably than anybody else that received an award. But she had the courage and the Constitution, and she understood the assignment and what her purpose was in real time.
Well, that other guy, he said, well, I ain't going to talk about eggs. And that was it. That was it. That was it. But then again, I look at the way, and even out in the streets now with the white protesters, I would classify them as white protesters. We see more women out in the streets than we do men. Okay, which is that's just the way it is.
So how do we change that? How did we change that, Pastor Dixon? What is your plan to change that? Maybe
first off, we have
share your blueprint. How you change that?
First off, we have to recognize that that's what's going on, because we don't want to recognize it. Am I the only one who recognized the fact that the two back-to-back BETs, the only one who spoke about what was going on in this world was women?
Ooh. Wow.
Am I the only one that caught that?
No, you didn't. But you hit
a
nerve. You're right, Doechii and Taraji P. Henson. Yeah, you did. You
unashamedly spoke up about Project 2025 last year. And for a lot of people, that was the first wake-up point that they had ever had.
That's a good point.
But it was a woman.
Pastor Dixon, coming with it. I love it. That's why that's my man. That's why he's on this. Tell the truth, shame the devil. That's an excellent point. Taraji P. Henson.
Where them men at?
So all right, so here's the call to action. So what, like I said, because that's a challenge you have as the chairman of the Charleston County. So what's your message? Here, we got men watching. We got men and women. So what's look in the camera? Here's your message to men and not the MAGA bro culture, not that racist,
No.
sexist, misogynist, violent, abusive, pedophile, criminal, sexual mentality
Man,
type. We ain't
you
effing with
just-
y'all.
you
But
just described
the
the
vast
whole-
majority of men that's not on that bullshit. Speak to them,
Yeah.
Pastor Dixon.
Yeah, the reality is that us as men folk, I guess we played into the syndrome that says, okay, we glorify Mother's Day, but Father's Day don't mean nothing, and we've just allowed that because a lot of men in our nation aren't living up to that role as men. And I'm not talking about that. We can say provider and all of that, but I'm talking about just being a man, not misusing manhood or our ability to just being a gentleman. Talking respectful to our women and to others, to each other.
Yes.
Teaching our children. We've fallen victim to the game, and now we're part of the problem when it comes to it. And this spans all ethnic groups, with the exception, I'm gonna say, except for our Asian group, where they're a very paternalistic society. And our Latino group. So actually, kind of just
patriarchy kind of got us here too. So that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, it is. It is. We can get back to that one though, because it can be dangerous. They can be dangerous if the role is abused. And so, being a man, I mean, the definitions have been changed and altered, especially within the Black community. I remember growing up, being a man meant that you did dope, you drank liquor, you smoked cigarettes, you ran women, you talked crazy,
died young, because that was foolish.
That was being a man, ain't worry about the police, it was just foolishness. When the reality was, something inside of me said that being a man is something different than this.
But Pastor Dixon, we got to point this out. That narrative that unfortunately permeated some of us in our culture and community, we have to understand, where did that come from? Who promoted that image? It damn sure didn't come from West Africa. It didn't come from Ghana or Nigeria or Liberia or the Ivory Coast or South Africa or Kenya. It damn sure didn't come from there.
That's true. But it's one thing about ideas. For ideas to take root and to really spread and whatever, they have to be promoted. And to do that, it takes money. So even though we came up with the messaging, the money to promote that negative messaging came from another subset that's benefited from us since we arrived on the shores of the United States. They're still pimping us. And we are still running right behind them like, oh, I'm enjoying, where my pimp at?
And if we're going to talk about the messaging, Pastor Dixon, we're going to keep this 1,000. We're going to put 10 toes down on the floor.
Bring it.
Let's go to the N word. We didn't create that. We didn't invent that word. And it just goes back to what we were talking about early. When you don't control media, TV, radio, magazines, print. I mean, for centuries, the people who controlled these institutions wanted to make sure that they promoted the most negative image to reinforce the stereotype, to keep us oppressed, to keep us in bondage, physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and financially. So it's not an accident. There's a reason, Pastor Dixon, and I want you to pick back up and really want to address the men and just talk about your strategy and game plan on how we keep this energy and turn it up and maintain it till November of 2025, 26, and before that. There's a reason that there's only one. Now, I've worked in radio and TV for over 30 years, Pastor Dixon. I can tell you for a fact, and I can name check everybody from Clive Davis, really before that, from Walter Yetnikoff, to Mariah Carey's ex-husband, Tommy Mottola, to Clive Davis, to Jimmy Iovine, to Lyle Core, and these were like 5 names of white dudes who were at the very top of the music industry. Top of the top. Some very powerful black men worked underneath. But these, from the 80s on, Those names I mentioned, you can Google it. We're at the top of the top. Why is it that the only ethnic group that was allowed to use a racial slur to describe themselves were black people? In the 90s, in the early 90s, Michael Jackson had a song, They Don't Care About Us. And it had, he mentioned like a lot of different slurs. And he mentioned the Jewish slur in that song. The record company, which was the parent company, which was CBS Records, made Michael Jackson take that Jewish slur out of that song. You can Google that. You can chat GPT that. That's a fact. So why is it that the only other ethnic group, and I know all the ethnic slurs for Italians and Irish and Jews and Germans and Polish, you name it, I know all the ethnic slurs, but I've never heard any of them in any music except for the one that refers to black people. That's not an accident. I'm just telling you, it's not my opinion, it's a fact. It's not an accident, but it speaks to what we were saying, how and some of these same record companies, you do a little digger deep and dive. Some of these same executives and some of these same companies were invested in these private prisons. Okay, now, so you say conspiracy theory, but you can do your homework. It's a fact.
It's no conspiracy theory. In the music industry, we can go back to chess records. We can go back as far as we can go back to James Brown being pimped. We can go back to Muddy Waters being pimped. We can go back to the Temptations being pimped by our own people. Okay, because that's a whole nother issue. Because once we started getting on, first off, they've never had any problem about us being entertainers, as long as they're profiting. When I say they, I mean the white establishment. Regardless of what ethnicity the white establishment is, they come in various shades too. But the white establishment has no problem with us as long as we're entertaining them and bringing in profits, because we sing and dance. We shuffle along. We comedians and everything. That's what we bring the entertainment. But we only allowed a certain level of intrusion into that part of the makeup, because they've got to keep us in our place. So they're good with soul music. They love some soul music. But when them soul music artists started bringing in that money, they said, no, okay, we got to keep the money flowing up. We'll keep promoting you, but we got to keep the money flowing to the top, sort of like working for McDonald's.
Right. Or when they started educating the masses, not just black folks, like people like when Sam Cooke, when the change is going to come, then you become a threat. You become dangerous.
Yep. But then they found a hook. They found a hook, because if you look at a lot of the Temptation songs, when they shifted to the revolutionary type music, when the Dramatics shifted to the revolutionary, for God's sake, give more power to the people.
The Shy Lights. That was the Shy Lights.
Yeah, the Shy Lights. And then when what happened was that their producers, the people that was making all the money, said, we can tap into this resource. Let them say it. Let them say it. Let them go it, as long as our money keeps building. But the biggest problem inside of it, and I hate to rag on like Motown or whatever, and the same thing happens in our political spectrum also, is the people who are in charge of our own systems become the pimps too. They've learned from the master that that's the way to success. That's the way to success. We use them. We just need them so we can get where we got to go. George Clinton, he did it with the Parliament Funkadelic movement. You know.
Well, they did. Really, the record industry really did it to George, because they did him real dirty. That's a whole nother story.
Well, he was doing it to his people, though.
Yeah. Well, people would make that argument about James Brown, which is why how Boosie he fired the band he had because and James was on some stuff with this fine. They missed a note. He was fining them. They was like, man, dude, with these fines,
that's $5, man.
What you doing with this money? And so they left, and then James had heard about these young teenagers in Ohio, Bootsy, his brother Catfish Collins, and some other, and they became James Brown's band. And you notice Bootsy didn't stick around long. Bootsy, who did Bootsy hook up with? George Clinton.
That's right, George Clinton. George Clinton.
Yeah.
And it was my understanding that Bootsy didn't get shafted like a lot of Clinton's people did, but still in all of it, back to the lesson at hand. It's part of our community makeup that when we talk about a victims category, we've allowed victimization ourselves as a subset of who we are. When it comes to our political figures, one of the reasons why people don't want to go vote right now is because we've had people in our community that we've elected and they've never done anything for us. We elect them, they go and supposedly to represent us. They never represent us. You never see them anymore until it's time for them to run again. That's it. And that's not the way this thing is supposed to be set up. And you've got kids who went to the polls, were taken with their mothers and their grandmothers to the polls, and they told them, you vote and stuff happens. Good stuff happens. You got kids that grew up in a system where nothing good ever happened. Everything got worse. Schools got worse. Streets got worse. Crime got worse. Everything got worse. And they said, well, we used to go vote. You said you vote and stuff happened. Why should I go vote if nothing ever happened? But it didn't happen because the people that we elected, we put in office and we just let them be.
You didn't hold them accountable. You didn't hold them accountable.
Right. We didn't hold them accountable.
Two things. You didn't hold them accountable and you weren't consistent. So
That's
you
right.
were just as much as fault as the politicians. Because I got somebody that's watching this show. I'm going to call her out, Great Hustle 843. She's always bitching about the Democrats. And I tell her this. If you don't like the Democrats that's in office, then you need to run. And you need to mobilize the people who feel like you, take it over. If you don't learn nothing from this MAGA cult that started off as the Tea Party because they were shocked, they were shook that a black man became president. And then the Tea Party was just the real mild version of MAGA. That was the origin of MAGA. And what did they do? They ran for every position in every local election. I don't give a damn if it was dog catcher, flea catcher. They ran for office and they showed up and they took over. That's why there is no longer a Republican Party, because it has been taken over by a cult. So the Democrat, I'm not encouraging, we don't need any more cults. I'm not encouraging that the Democrats become a cult, but my point is, and Pastor Dixon, you've told the story, and that's, you are in the heart of it. You can't complain. I don't want to hear about what Democrats didn't do. What did you do? What did you do?
That's the key right there. That's the key right there.
How many people did you mobilize? And don't talk to me about reparations, because do you understand how you get reparations? To get reparations, Pastor Dixon can co-sign this, it takes an act of what from who?
Congress.
Okay. So what does that mean? That means you got to have people in Congress. That are willing to vote for something that you deserve.
And how do you get people in Congress?
By voting. Thank you, Pastor.
Okay.
So stop with the people don't even, reparations and stop talking. We
can take that conversation.
Take this from me, right? But stop. That's you got to understand before you can get. That's like you talking about you want to bake a cake and see it rise, but you ain't even went to the store and bought any flour or milk yet.
Yeah, we take that conversation, reparations, right? I would suggest any black person or white person that want to talk about reparations, do two things. Go talk to a Republican elected official about reparations, and then come back and talk to a Democrat about it. See which way you're going to come out further along. You might not get anywhere with either one of them, but see which one is going to get you further along than the other. And that's the bottom line. We and the good sister, and I understand folks that are in her position because they've been trained that way and haven't done enough research into the things that we've been talking about tonight, that this state is controlled by Republicans for 22 years, and that they have messaged our people and others that it's the Democrats' fault where stuff is, and we've fallen for it hook, line, and sinker, And there's another problem is that because we have elected Democrats, a lot of them that look like us, who got into these positions and they did nothing for us, but could maintain power. That's all they've done. And we see them coming and we like to pat them on the back and carry on. That's why I'm in a unique position right now, because A lot of them people know I don't like to pat you on the back if you don't deserve it, and I ain't going to. I, I don't go along to get along. That ain't what I'm about. You don't like me, then put me out. Okay, get rid of me. All right? I'm not getting ready to be shinning and grinning up under nobody. And I told them that before I ran for this seat, that, if it's a situation where I don't feel that the person deserves that type of credit, I'm not going to give it to them. I'd rather let somebody else that's up under me, one of my vice chairs, go to an event for that person than for me to go there. I'm not going to lie for you, because you give me the microphone, we might have a problem. Okay, we might have a problem. Come on, I'm going to call it out. And another problem that we've had is the Democratic Party has not, in South Carolina and nationally, has not messaged the way that they're supposed to, have not gotten into the community the way it's supposed to, not shown the people that it really cares or listen to the concerns of the people. We have people sitting at leadership positions for a very long time who decided about what was best for a community. And now, if I had a doctor like that, he wouldn't be my doctor long. If I walked in and before I said anything, he said, okay, here's your prescription. I already got you set up. You're ready to go. Instead of asking me, where does it hurt? What's wrong? If we have our political leadership that doesn't treat us like a good doctor and comes and asks us where it hurts, and together we form a plan in order to fix it so we can be healed, then that leadership is not what it's supposed to be and needs to be gone. And that's why I'm in the position why I'm in right now, because the people decided they wanted a real doctor.
And somebody, okay, here we go. All right, I think this is this reparations conversation. It's like the president has the power. What is an executive order? You cannot, reparations with, Pastor Dixon, you are, because I've been speaking to this person. She ain't listening to me. But no. You were the chairman of the Charleston County Democratic Party. You've run to be mayor. You're very politically astute. Could you give her a civics lesson and get her to understand that you cannot get reparations, which, especially if there's any kind of economic, there has to be an economic component, whether it's cash or checks outright or money for harm in terms of making sure that people have education, tuition, grants to replace land that was stolen. That's a whole different conversation. Could you please explain to the viewers and the person that's watching that you cannot get reparations from an executive order? It is an act of, please, because they ain't listening to me. So could you explain that?
I'm going to say this very briefly, and then I'm going to give the foundation for it. Geno's right. Nothing's going to happen until Congress votes on it. And if Congress does not approve it, it will never happen. The president cannot mandate that, okay? Unless he's a king. And you got a king, don't care nothing about black folks, he ain't going to mandate that. No. Period, okay? But the bottom line is, for that person that keeps asking about reparations, if that person looks around in their community, I don't know what community they live in, and they say, see little children that are not getting educated, all of the children educated, that's a problem. That's just as bad as not getting reparations, or worse. That's something that we can fix right now, waiting on that Congress. If we look at people that have healthcare disparities and the healthcare outcomes are bad, but they can't go to the hospital because they can't afford to get sick, that's something that we can work on right now. You keep going to reparations. What about this? What about the fact that we got gun violence going on in our community, and there are things that we can actually do in order to break that gun violence down, but it's not being done. Let's talk about that before we get to, well, we could talk about the reparations too, but let's talk about that. If you get stuck on reparations, you're going to miss a whole lot in here that we could be actually working on too while we're trying to get, and I'm not even going to talk about the fact that we have to go vote in order to get the people in office, that so we can get people in South Carolina. South Carolina has 7 House congressional districts: 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th. We have 1 Democrat out of those 7 districts in the House of Representatives in Congress, and that's Jim Clyburn. The other 6 are Republicans, and they are MAGA Republicans, and they will kiss Donald Trump's butt. I was getting ready to say something else there, Geno, but I put it back.
Come on.
I know I could have, and they will.
I'll say it for you. Kiss his ass.
Yes, what he said. As far as they can get their head up there. And that's six. I mean, out of our seven here, we only have one Democrat that is actually in some kind of way, in some kind of way, fighting for on our behalf here in Congress, in the House of Representatives, because we have the U.S. Senate too. Now, South Carolina, the whole state has two U.S. senators. Both of them are Republicans.
And neither one of them are going to sign any kind of reparations bill. And if you don't believe me, call Tim Scott or Lindsey
Maybe
Graham.
She don't know who they are.
At 202-224-3121. Call them. 202-224-3121. Call them and ask them, are they going to sign a reparations bill?
They ain't going to answer your phone. You write a letter, they're going to send you a form letter back.
They probably can't even spell reparations.
Yeah. So we got two U.S. senators that go there. That would be the ones that vote for the reparations. That without their vote, it's not going to happen in the United States. We have Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham, both Republicans, both MAGA Republicans, both with their heads so far up Donald Trump's ass. Excuse me for saying it. I reiterate that they ain't getting ready to think about. No, they won't think about getting our kids quality public education, or health care for people, or helping our senior citizens, or making sure we got accessible housing, or taking care of our veterans. They won't do none of that. So what makes you think they're getting ready to go and, we not to focus on reparations?
And to go back I'll close my part, and then I want you just to close with a strong, prescription for how we keep this momentum going. And I want you to speak to the culture and the community, especially Black folks and just Americans overall, the kind of conversation that you said a lot of the Democrats have lacked, or the ones who the ones that have tried to amplify this message, or the ones that have said these things publicly. The media is not going to amplify their voice. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going back to, because Great Hustle 843, she came in the show late, Pastor Dixon. So, Miss 843, I'm going to give you these numbers, because she's also talking about, we need to be independent. In certain states, you either got to vote Republican or even independents have to pick a party. But here's the numbers that Pastor Dixon gave us. All right, Miss 843. Presidential election, November 5th. Orange Hitler got 32% out of all the Americans who were eligible to vote. Eligible, registered voters, out of all of them, regardless of party affiliation, race, gender, whatever. Orange Hitler got 32% of all the eligible voters who were able and eligible to vote. So out of everybody that could have voted, who was registered to vote, he got 32%. Kamala Harris got 31% of all the people who were registered and eligible to vote. Just 1% less than Orange Hitler. But guess who got, what category got the largest percentage of voters? Were the folks, the non-voters. 36% out of all the people in America, the adults, from 18 up, 18 to the grave, before the grave, that were eligible to vote, 36% didn't vote. There's your problem right there. Pastor Dixon, you have the floor to close the show.
Yeah. I've heard the conversations before about we need to start another party and all of this here, and I could dig it. I definitely can dig it. But I got a problem with that personally, because by the time that we get enough in this independent or separate party or whatever to even win at a local level, it's going to be 10, 15 years, maybe 5, 10, 15 years from now, when we can finally get a win. What are we supposed to do in between that time, when they're killing our kids, when they're robbing our communities, when they're not paying us no money? We got to live in poverty. What are we supposed to do until we get the power to win something, even at the local level, by this third party? Because you're not just going to walk in and win. How long is it going to take before a third party can win a congressional seat? God only knows how long. While all the while, our lives are being destroyed out here, and our children's lives are being destroyed, and we are not embracing or even feeling the American dream. And American dream is a nightmare for us. What are we supposed to do in the meantime until we get a win as a third party? So that dog really don't hunt, okay? But the way that I look at it is, and it's the reason why I'm in the position that I'm in right now as the chair of the Charleston County Party is, I looked at first off, I look at the value system that the Republicans represent, a party that will elect a Donald Trump president, not once but twice, in spite of all the lies, conniving, J6, January 6th,
34 count convicted felon, adjudicated sexual assaulter, all of that.
Lying about President Barack Obama, all of these other things that he's done. What do you call the military people?
Suckers and losers.
Suckers and losers, right? In spite of all that, he still gets elected president again. So I look at their value system, and I'm saying that ain't my kind of value system. If I got somebody doing dirt, and I know they're doing dirt, I might love the dope dealer, but I'm not gonna vote for the dope dealer. I'm sorry, I know he's doing dirt. He don't mean the community good.
Not at all.
But they voted for him. The converse of that is the Democratic Party, where the Democratic Party represents the value system that most of us believe in, that we should be our brothers and sisters keepers, that we should have good schools, that we should have quality health care that everybody should have access to, that we should be able to sit on our front porch or our grandparents walk to the grocery store at night without fear of getting shot. Those are democratic values, because the Republicans vote against all of that. Democrats have put up the bills to vote for those things. But the problem is we don't control the vote, because for 22 years, the Republican Party in South Carolina has controlled the vote. So we have got to make sure that we understand the situation. And the situation is, we cannot allow the Republicans to continue on, because they're going to kill us. They've been doing a good job of it already.
Yeah.
We can't win trying to develop a third party. So there's one other party that at least thinks like we do, that'll listen to you talking about reparations and might even offer a decent idea about how to get them. Maybe.
Like we did. Like show up. That's how you get it. Show up. People who share your values. Make sure you support them financially. Show up in large numbers and turn out.
But the thing is, though, when you come to that realization that, okay, here's this party that has the ability to do what I need done for me, then let me do it. I saw that issue, and I said the only way for us to really win is for us to take over the party. And that's why I'm in the position right now. This was in the back of my mind for years, because I saw the necessity of having the political capital in order to make sure that our community was protected. Of course, I've only been 3 months in this spot, but there are some people out here of all ethnicities are starting to say, man, we're starting to feel a little better. We got somebody that's fighting for us. We got a dude, he's the Democrat, but he's a Democrat because of the values that he stands for. He believes in the people, and he will fight for the people. And as long as we have people that will fight for the people, and they happen to fall up under the banner of Democrats, because the Republicans, I hate to say it, if you support trash, then you trash. I'm just gonna put it that way. But you got somebody who is actually vetting new candidates that's going to be of the same caliber, that will fight for the people, and those old candidates or people that's already in office being challenged with doing right by the people. Now we're starting to take over, and we're seeing change. We're seeing change with a party that has the ability to win right now, not 10 years from now, 15 years from now, right now. But we need people to get up, stand up, and be a part of it. We have to mobilize, we have to organize, we have to strategize, and we have to get our eyes in the streets too. We can't let the white people take all the work on out there. We need to let the other eyes of the other people out there see us united in this cause, because no matter what flows out of Washington, D.C., when the world gets a cold, Black folks get pneumonia. And when it comes down the pike from Washington, D.C., where them same white folk out there in the streets asking where the Black folks at, when they get hit by this thing, you guarantee if they got hit, it's gonna be bad for us, even worse. So we can't afford to sit back in our complacency. And I love to get on out to the line dances and everything. That's great. But don't forget about our primary obligation. Ain't no line dance going to educate your child. It's not going to get you health care when you need it. It's not going to keep you safe inside of your school, your children inside of your schools, or you on your porch. You need to get involved with the political system so we can win.
Or have a line dance party and talk about how you need to and mobilize so people can come and line dance and register to vote and volunteer and organize to step into the power.
I need somebody to hook me up with 803 Fresh. Where them votes at? Where them votes at?
I know somebody watching this show that knows him. So y'all copy clip. Not copy. Well, you can just go ahead and clip and post or paste or whatever. Just rip some of the screen grab it. There you go. Rip the video, screen grab it, and send it to Brother 803 Fresh, who I'm so proud of doing his thing. He was
Absolutely.
out in Los Angeles at the BET Awards. I almost wound up in LA. I was on the West Coast. But shout out to you, Brother 803 Fresh, repping up there. I know. I think he's from a smaller town, but I know he's been in Columbia, so he's repping South Carolina to the fullest. So shout out to you and everybody else is just doing their thing. A lot of these Southern Soul artists, California is on fire. And in closing, I'm just gonna say this, and then Pastor Dixon, let everybody know where they can come in and support what you're doing. They can follow you on social media. For all of us, this is for us, for Black America. This is for the culture. All right, this is for everybody in the house. For those of us that's saying, listen, man, why? Man, them illegal immigrants, are they criminals? Old boy said they criminals. So why should we worry about it? He ain't bothering us. Let me please hear what I'm saying. Because I said it earlier in the show. What Orange Hitler and Tom Holman and Stephen Miller and all these white nationalists, these racist, misogynist, sexist, virulent, anti-black white nationalists are doing this experiment with, just how gangster can we be in terms of literally snatching up babies, sending them out of the country, snatching up their parents, and sending them to black site prisons where nobody even knows where they are. If you, as a black man or black woman looking at this show, if you think that this plan does not include your black ass and mine, you are a fool. So, it may be the immigrants today don't think they won't come for you. And even the poor and working class white folks and Asians, they come for them too. Just study history. Study Germany. It wasn't just the Jews that the Nazis came for. Do a little history, all right? The Jews just got it worse, but they didn't just come for the Jews in Nazi Germany. So don't think that they're just gonna stop, with immigrants looking for day labor, standing in front of a Home Depot or Lowe's parking lot, or working in an agricultural field. That's just the test case. They just trying to test this thing out and see how far they can get away with it. And the way to stop them is to show up and show out. Pastor Dixon, take it away. Take us home.
Wow. Yep. Many of us know about the African experience as we were raped and from our country and taken from our country and brought here forcibly. And I've heard many today who will say, man, if that was me, they never would have did that to me. Looking at what's going on right now in our community, I think they would. Because right now they're basically doing the same thing. They are taking every last little bit that we do have from us, and we ain't saying nothing about it. We done went to sleep. You hear these folks talking about the woke. Well, we need to wake up. We truly need to wake up. So I'd like to invite anybody that wants to get with me or whatever to just holler at your boy. I'm a different kind of pastor. I use terminology like that. Every now and then I say cuss word, but it'd be all right. I don't smoke and I don't chew and I don't go with girls that do. So it's all right. But yeah, if you want to check with me, man, I'm on Facebook under Thomas Dixon, Dixon. You can actually put Pastor Dixon in and it's going to come up. I'm on IG and X with Dixon for Justice. But the bottom line is, though, I'm in this new position for the last 3 months, chairman of the Charleston County Democrats. And there's a new thing that's happening here with the Charleston County Democrats. And it's a thing called liberty and justice for all. I'm promoting democratic values across the board. And I got a different kind of flavor than the people that stood before me because I'm a community guy. I've been on the block. I've been on the block at 3, 4 in the morning, sometimes not doing what's right. I ain't scared to get out there and be about it, you know? So, but this is something different at afoot inside of Charleston County. And it's not only Charleston County, it's catching on around us also. I'm working in conjunction with some of the other county chairs also, because they see the necessity of change. The old way, Tupac said it, the old way just wasn't working. So we got to do what we got to do in order to survive. And in order to survive right now, I'm going to tell y'all what, take the party out of that thing. Just look at the value systems that we support.
Right there.
Just look at the value systems that we support, that we want good education for our kids, safe neighborhoods, and just the ability to think, act, and say what we want to, and guaranteed coverage under the Constitution. All of that's being taken away right now. So the people that's going to fight for that are the people who actually believe in the same value system. It just happened to be Democrats. So I say, get with us. Get with us. You can reach me through the Democratic Party. You can just go to the website, Charleston Democrats, not party, charlestondemocrats.com. Sign up to get our regular newsletter. It'll tell you about what's going on, where we at, how you can get involved with our club parties, our club, Democratic clubs. We got a new one that's started up again in North Charleston. We just restarted the Peninsula Dems. We're on James Island, Folly Beach, Mount Pleasant, West Ashley. We're St. Paul's, out in Hollywood and Ravenel. We got space up there. We just need to come together and utilize the power source we got. We need to make sure that we're activating that 36% that did not vote last year, so that next year, when it's time to vote again, that folks, and there ain't no presidential election next year. Let me just say that. Next year's the midterm. Mm-hmm. And anybody that's thinking about waiting on presidential election might not be around here long enough. You might be in prison by then.
Right. Or it might not be a presidential election.
It might not be. So go and vote then. But how you find out about it? Hey, log in with us with the Charleston County Dems. I'm right now, again, it's an honor for me to serve in that position. It's a frustrated position. I don't get paid for what I do. I'm just going to let you know, I've never gotten paid for anything that I do for the community. That's not a motivator for me. The motivation for me is to be helping my people, period. That's it. We're helped, I'm happy. Wife would rather have a big house and all of that, but to death do us part.
and this brother has been doing this at least 20 years, longer than 20. He was doing it before I got here. He was one of the first people that I met out in the community 20 plus years ago. That's why I stand 10 toes down with this brother, because he's a smart man. He's a brilliant man. He's a strategist, very strategic, very smart, but ain't no punk in him. You know, that's south side of Chicago.
Outside.
We don't start no fight. As a matter of fact, we always come in peace. We do not look for trouble.
They ain't gonna back down though.
If you start, my grandfather said, Jeannie, never start a fight, but always end it.
That's right. That's right.
Don't start it, but make sure you finish it. Make sure you end it.
The street said, "Don't write no check your body can't pay." Don't underestimate the pastor now. Pastor part of it been the prison system. Won't go trying me now. It's all right.
Pastor Thomas Dixon, brother, you know I love you, man. The energy, you know, I'm 10 toes down with you. I told you I was gonna be a pest. I was gonna bug your ass. I'm like, look, dude, but to his credit, I called him earlier today. I said, Pastor Dixon, we got to take this energy and we got to stretch this out. You know, we got to talk about how we keep the same energy going. And you agreed, and you said, yep, now's a good time to talk about it. So I appreciate you.
Two things right quick. Tomorrow is 10 years since Mother Emanuel.
Thank you.
Since the Mother Emanuel tragedy.
Here in Charleston, South Carolina, for those who watch.
South Carolina. And every year on that day, we meet right at the same time where the Bible study was taking place at Mother Emanuel. We meet right out on the sidewalk in front of Mother Emanuel, and we stay there from about 8:30 until about 9:30. We do a narrative talking about the people who were out there in the streets that night, who actually prevented Charleston from burning down that night, the unsung heroes who put in the work in order to make sure that the Charleston stayed safe as opposed to burning it down, because the folks was here.
Yes.
They wanted to set it off.
They were here and they were on the interstate, because I got the phone calls, and I know people, many people who were born and raised here, who had cousins from, as they say, up north, that was on I-95 and I-20 and I-26. It's like, yo, y'all all right? Because we on the way. We are on I-95. We'll be here in an hour and a half or an hour or 40.
And we got a trunk load.
Yes.
Trunk load. So contrary to the narrative that was spun by the media and Joe Riley and the city and the chief of police and all them, they did not. And that the forgiveness that the families brought forth, that wasn't what stopped the city from burning down. It was folks on the street, ground folks like me that got some history, that been to prison and stuff like that, that kept the city down. And every year we come together, we meet at Mother Emanuel right around 8:30 or so, and we recall what happened that night. And at 9:00 p.m. we read the names of the 9 who lost their lives, because that was the approximate time when that clown got the firing off up in there. We're standing feet away from where it happened at the time. And it's just by coincidence that there's not far from there's a church also that rings its bell on the hour. So at 9:00, when we start reading the names, the actual church bell of the church that's down the street is ringing 9 times at the same time to coincide with it. Wow. Yeah, it's a little message. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. And for those who will get in the streets, and I need y'all to get in the streets, we're going to be in front of North Charleston, South Carolina City Hall on July the 4th, on the 4th of July from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we're going to, the rallies you've seen in the streets, the thousands of people in the streets, I need to make sure that thing look like dominoes or something. It'd be black and white in the crowd. So y'all just come on out. Follow me on Facebook. It's flyers there and everything about all of this, and you can just keep up what's going on. Listen, holler at your boy. My cell phone number's on my Facebook page. If you just want to holler at your boy, give me a call. I'm accessible. I ain't like them politicians.
Pastor Thomas Dixon, man, like I said, man, I love you, brother. Your heart is in the right place. That's why I'm always going to stand 10 toes down with you. I appreciate you so much. You all reach out to him, and we're going to do a special tribute on the show. You know what? I wish I didn't think about it earlier. I would love to get somebody on the show. I don't know if we can do it, who was part of the brothers and sisters, specifically the brothers who were actually out on the street that night, that played a huge part in saving the city from burning down. Because I talked about that in a documentary that's out now. I encourage everybody. It's One Last Breath. It's the story of Reverend Daniel Simmons. He was one of the victims of the Mother Emanuel massacre. His daughter, Rose Simmons, is a filmmaker. And you'll see me in the documentary because I discussed that matter. How people, literally, we were getting phone calls. People, like you said, they were, and I ain't just talking about, the young boys, the young boys with their pants sagging. I'm talking about brothers in the former military, business owners, or cats that used to be in the streets that turned. This city came that close to burning down, and it was the people here.
Second time that year.
And the unfortunate part, Pastor Dixon, and I know you know this, that the black people who basically saved their city because they said, as angry as they were, this is my home and I don't want it to burn down. I had people tell me that verbatim, but many people who were coming down from other cities in the north talked about the black people here and called them punks and soft, and that's why that happened, because that was misguided, because it wasn't that. And I got it from somebody, because I put myself in their position. You and I both grew up on the south side of Chicago. And there's a pride and a bond. That soil raised you. And I had to respect that. This is their home. This soil raised them. And as wrong as this one dude was who wasn't from here, the people who would have suffered the most were the grandmothers and the elderly parents, and then the kids. You know,
And the folks who started off with it just went back to where they came
right.
from.
And the folks in Mount Pleasant and Sullivan's Island and all these, you know, they'd have been, you know, Western, Ashley, they'd have been fine. Because those neighborhoods would have never been affected. Our community would have been affected.
You know, it would have been the same thing as West Side burning down after MLK.
Yes.
Been the same thing as Watts burning down after after the in '92, and then after the Rodney King situation. They let it stay that way because that made gentrification so much easier. We killed our own communities and set them up to take it over.
Say that, Pastor Dixon. You're the best, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right. We got a hell of an episode. This one's going to go viral. Let me just do this. I'm going to reach out to Pastor. Once again, I want to thank Pastor Thomas Dixon. He's the chairman of the Charleston County Democratic Party here in Charleston County, South Carolina. And it's not about a party for Miss 843 Great Hustle. If you're watching, you keep missing it. You know, so when you keep jumping in my chat room talking about what Democrats didn't do and Joe Biden, stop talking, because that shows me as intelligent, because there's a degree of intelligence in some of your conversation, but it's convoluted and misguided. And whatever anger or resentment, because I never hear you talk about the anger and resentment by this violent cult masquerading as a Republican Party. I've not one time ever seen you post anything negative about Orange Hitler, Donald Trump, or the Republicans here in the state of South Carolina, and just the repressive way they have ran this state, especially repressive for people that look like you and me. I've never heard you, I haven't seen one criticism about them. It's always criticism about the Democrats, but what you got to understand now, this is not about party affiliation. Do you think that Orange Hitler gives a shit about a party affiliation? He just used the party. He was a Democrat at one time, but he said publicly that if he ran for president, he would be a Republican because basically the Republican voters he saw were dumb. That's what the man said. Now, you can Google that or chat GPT that. That's what the man said. He understood it wasn't about a party affiliation. It was about power. And which party could he come in? And Sarah Palin, she was the test case. She was the blueprint. She came in with the virulent racism, anti-blackness, anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, anti-Hispanic, anti-brown rhetoric and ideology and feelings, along with the misogyny and sexism. And all Orange Hitler did, all he did was just turn up the volume, just open the floodgates. He was like, F it. Okay. I'm just going to go all the way racist. First thing he said coming down the escalator. Mexican, when he announced he was running for president, Mexicans are rapists and criminals. That's what the man said, first thing out of his mouth, running for president. So you don't get it. This has got nothing to do. This party affiliation, it's just labels. These labels don't mean shit. It's about power and who can you pressure and who can you put pressure on, who can you hold accountable, who can you elect and unelect, who will at least listen to what you have to say, as a cult that wants your destruction and the destruction of you and everybody that looks like somebody like you, everybody that looks like you. Anybody that has the look that you have, anybody inside your body that looks like you, they want to destroy. So if you want to do this and have this conversation, that's the real one. So until you can acknowledge that and own that, don't waste your time posting nothing. You can just we can talk about anything, but don't miss me. I don't want to see nothing posted in my chat room from you with the word Democrat until I see something talking about this cult, this evil cult that's snatching babies from the arms of their moms, that's sending 4-year-old little girls with cancer, deporting them to Mexico or out of America, which is going to cause this young girl to die within a month because she won't be able to get the life-saving medical treatment that she was given when she was allowed to come here. So talk about the cruelty. So if you're not going to talk to me about that, stop talking. But we got love for you, but stop talking. I got less than zero, minus zero tolerance for the bullshit. All right? And we don't vote for Republicans. Well, some did, okay? And as a matter of fact, if none, like Pastor Dixon said, if more of us turned out to vote, and if you don't like the Democrats that's in power, then you need to do something about it. You need to organize. Take the same energy and organize and find like-minded people who want to run as a Democrat and can take over the party and represent the values that you. So if you want reparations, which you cannot get with an executive order, takes an act of Congress. So that means you need to run, or you need to find. Lindsey Graham is running. His Senate seat is up. Are you running? Who you going to support? Who you going to challenge? Dr. Annie Andrews, you talk to her, see if she wants you, ask her what, her opinion on would she vote for reparations. And if you don't like what she says, then you all need to, you and your crew, organize and find a candidate that can beat Annie Andrews and everybody else in a primary, and then beat Lindsey Graham in a general election and elect senators, because it will be the U.S. Senate that will vote on any kind of reparations package. And then you got to make sure that it is a president that would sign the law, or sign it into law. Because they can pass any kind of legislation or bill, but the president has to sign off on it. You think this orange so-and-so would ever vote for? If anything, he'll vote to get black folks out of here. So stop talking. I don't criticize the Democrats. Then you are not listening. Miss 843, you are not listening. You're not listening at all. You're not. So just, I don't know what to tell you. Get some of that ear wash or something. Flush your ears out. You hear what you want to hear. Like my grandmother used to tell me and my sisters when we were kids. You hear what you want to say. Or you hear what you want to hear. You hear what you want to hear. You've never criticized the Democrats. I just told you, if they're Democrats that are not effective, I told you to take over the damn party. You don't like the way James Clyburn has done his job. Have you identified somebody to run? Have you organized and mobilized? Have you raised money to find a candidate to run against James Clyburn? Since you want to talk about Democrats, since we only got one. But in the meantime, when you get through with the Democrats, that's 1 out of 7. Pastor Dixon told you there are seven U.S. House of Representative districts in South Carolina. Don't just stop with one. You all big and bad. Find somebody to run in each one of the 7 districts, and then find somebody to run against Lindsey Graham. And then 2 years from now, run against Tim Scott's ass. See, you're not serious. You're not serious. You're telling on yourself. You're not serious, Miss 843. You're not serious. Because if you were serious, you thought, okay, we're going to do this. You can understand what it's going to take power, and you got to start at the local level. Because the times we're living in now, it is not about a party affiliation. It's a choice between a group of people that are represented, that identify as a certain party affiliation, who have a sense of humanity and compassion and empathy and decency, and you have a cult that is evil, where cruelty is their mission, it is their purpose. Cruelty, evil, anti-blackness, racist, bigotry in all of its forms, misogynist, and sexist. That's what they not just stand on, that is what they show you every day. Those who want to take health care, child care, food benefits, veterans benefits, those who want to criminalize black and brown bodies and deport them or shoot them and execute them, allow police to just do whatever, that's not Democrats co-signing on that bullshit. So you got to confuse with this party affiliation. It's about humanity. What party is showing a scintilla of humanity, and what party don't give a shit about humanity? Come on. Miss me with the nonsense. All right, I got to get out of here, you all. Thank you. I didn't know I was going to go this long. We had a great show. Shout out to Pastor Dixon. Once again, please support the Geno Jones Show and my media company. You can support the show financially if you love the energy, if you love the show, or if you just love to hate watch it. I love it too. You can donate. You can go ahead and hit that Cash App or Zelle. You can Zelle some money. Geno Jones. You can email me. So just go to Zelle, type in Geno Jones, and use my email address, GenoJonesShow@gmail. GenoJonesShow@gmail. You can Zelle your financial contribution donation. You can Cash App, $ Dad G Jones, all one word, $ capital D, lowercase a d, capital G, capital J, lowercase ONES, $ Dad G Jones. New start time Monday through Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, 4:30 p.m. live in Los Angeles and on the West Coast. Tell everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Geno Jones Show YouTube channel. You can screen grab, rip some of the video. It was a hell of a monologue. Thank you again to Pastor Thomas Dixon. A shout out to Allie Jones, the official wardrobe consultant and stylist for the show. Check out Allie and her Lexi Jones collection out on Instagram. LX.NCL_ on IG, Instagram. LX.NCL_. My man, Markel Bailey. He is the official barber and hairstylist for the show. Check him out, CEO of Designer Cuts here in the Charleston, South Carolina Metro. He is on Instagram, on IG. Kel B Cutting Up, KELBECUTTINUP. All right, I want to thank everybody for watching. Yes, even you too, Miss 843. Screen grab some of the show. Screen grab it, post it in a short video, put it on your platforms, record a video, copy and paste the link, and share it, tag it, text it to everybody, email it to them. I'll see you live. Special show honoring the memory of the mother Emanuel 9 who were massacred 10 years ago, June 17th, 2015. Tomorrow, June 17th, a very special show to honor those fallen angels of the mother Emanuel 9. Thank you for watching, everybody.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.